This is a breakdown of Hassan Mosque in Cairo, Egypt in 1350 CE.
Okay, so this is the exterior, and its plan is oriented toward the Mecca, which lies to the southeast of Cairo, and then both southwestern and the southeastern elevations feature eight vertically aligned windows, and it also has two minarets, which rise along the southeastern edge of the complex. Um, and then we have the plan of the Madrasa and Friday Mosque of Sultan Hassan. Each corner of the central courtyard contains a doorway into one of the four madrasas, and each one is dedicated to one of the four schools of law. The madrasas include their own small courtyards and four-story student housing blocks. The complex is also composed of the four Iwan Jami, which is the Friday Mosque, and then a madrasa, which is a secondary school or mausoleum. The congregational mosque was composed of a central courtyard with four Iwan's halls, which are enclosed on three sides and open to the courtyard on one side. And when it's not being used for prayer, these spaces function as seminar spaces for the madrasa.
The Mosque of Sultan Hassan in Cairo is one of the most famous examples of Mamluk architecture, which is known for its large scales, its detailed decoration, and its advanced structure. This building was made during the Mamluk period, which began in the 1450 and ended in the 1517. The mosque shows how design and engineering worked together during the Islamic architecture period. And one of its most striking features are the muqarnas, which are a honeycomb-like design that it's above the main entrance, and it serves not just for an artistic purpose, but it also has an important structural purpose, that it's to spread out the weight of the heavy stones above the main entrance to make the building more stable. The muqarnas above the main entrance also create a smooth transition between vertical walls and the spaces leading to the dome. And by breaking in the surface into small three-dimensional sections, the muqarnas distribute pressure evenly, helping to take stress out of the walls and helping this massive building to remain solid even through time. The muqarnas in the Mosque of Sultan Hassan were made from stone, which is carefully carved into geometric figures that catch the light and create a beautiful play between shadows. This mix of art and engineering are an example of how creative the builder was and how he had understanding of form and balance. And in conclusion, the muqarnas are a key element that makes the building both strong and visually unique. And they highlight how art and engineering can be combined and how it can turn a simple entrance into a powerful example of balance, stability, and creative design. And in the next slide, you can see just some pictures of examples of what are the muqarnas.
Okay, so the site, the Sultan Hassan is one of the largest buildings in Cairo, and it faces directly onto a large maidan, formerly called Maidan Rumaila. The complex is also very close to the location of the Hippodrome and the famous horse market.
Here is like the central courtyard. The central courtyard is an important space as it blends religious and cultural influences in its architecture, and it becomes really important later on as it becomes a prototype for later Mamluk architecture. So the open central courtyard has four iwans, which are halls enclosed on three sides and open towards the courtyard. Um, they are used for prayer and are often used as gathering spaces and meeting places. In Islamic culture and in the religion itself, purification is held to a high standard, and because of that, that represents the fountains. The fountains in the Hassan Mosque were created for ablution practices and play into the aesthetic of the mosque itself. So people would perform purification at these fountains and then enter the iwans to pray. Another thing about the iwans is the largest one is the southeastern iwan, which is the Qibla iwan, which is to the right of the picture. This also plays into the fact of the orientation of the mosque as it faced southeast towards Mecca. And these are where prayers, the direction in which prayers are held.
Okay, let's see. So this is the mausoleum chamber. Let's see. It is, so for context, the mosque was built during a time when they were going through a famine. There had recently been a plague, and the Nile had recently flooded. So it was just disaster in every way. And they built this mosque as a way to connect the education in the area with like the religious practice of the area. So it was a combination. The madrasa was the educational institution, and the congressional mosque was the religious place. So bringing these elements together in the Islamic world for the first time was very important to like connect the community, especially in this time of just chaos and like political instability. So the walls of this specific room were marble mosaic. You can see where there's like the lining near that little picture of the flower on the wall. And there are wooden panels. They were big into the carving of wood as decoration. So they would, as you can see the words, they would put the throne verse, it's called, and they would put the words on the wall, and it goes through the corner. So yeah, in the one on the left. And the dome, you can't really see it in this photo, but there was a dome on the top, and it's wooden, and it's what's these little lights are coming out of. So there's these basically like ornaments of lights surrounding this wooden box in the middle of the room. And this was like painted, decorated. There's little writing everywhere. And this was because this room was intended for like a final resting place. So almost like a royal burial. And so it had its own room for the one leader. This was obviously Sultan Hassan, but he was assassinated in 1361. And so they did not actually recover his body from that. So he's not technically buried here. So they waited until his two young sons passed away, and they are the ones that are actually buried in this chamber. Okay, so the building process and the materials. So there was a major significance in honoring the people who have passed, and this affected the intricate designs and careful carvings of the interior of the mosque. And there was a lot of use of wood for carving, stone, and brick. Brick was still the major building material of the 15th century at this time, and wood was used as the main material for like really detailed carving. It was also had a lot of like silver and gold, and the doors, especially in the burial structure, which was it was the, let me see, the mausoleum room was, the doors were copper and they had like silver and gold embellishments all over it. So there was a good use of metallic and metal in the design of the Mamluk era. So these burial rooms were intended for like fancy, significant people. So rulers, leaders, and political and military people were viewed as more elite. So they would have a more embellished or fancy room that they were honored in. And the preservation and what remains, there was a fire that destroyed the mosque in 1965, and it was repaired and like rebuilt gradually until 1981. And there was it's called a leaning minaret, I believe. It's like the tall part of the tower, and that was rebuilt in 1981 as well. And then let me see. And as of today, there's just been earthquake damage to the mosque, which is repaired, and that's basically, it's still in great condition. So.
So about the background information and historical significance, basically the mosque of Sultan Hassani in Cairo, it's one of the most important monuments of the Mamluk period, and it's not just because how big or how beautiful it was, but also for what it represented at that time. Basically, it was built during a great time of architectural growth and power in Egypt, and it was commissioned by the Sultan Hassan, which showed his wealth, authority, and devotion. And it served as both a mosque and a madrasa. So it was not just a center for religion, but it was also a center for education. And finally, it's a great and important symbol of Mamluk architecture. It's known for its large scale, its tall minarets, and its detailed stonework. And this is what made this building so important.
And that will conclude today's presentation about the Hassan Mosque at Syria. And these are our sources here. We visited Smart History and other such websites where we attained our information from. And most important factors that we can take away from this is a beautiful location and should still be continued with its studies, with their religious practices and its militaristic policies as well.